Minute with your hosts, Tom McNamara and Bruce Woodburn.
All righty. Good
Bruce.
morning.
Yeah.
All right.
So you're in Daytona today.
I am sitting in Daytona. We've been in the soggy rain all weekend waiting for this race to start. So I'll be heading over to Daytona Speedway here just in a few minutes after we're finished recording this. But we got a lot to talk about to get this Monday started. There's a lot of things going on. We're starting to see interest rates bounce back a little bit already this morning. It was a rocky road the last 2 weeks. We've been down in the bond market, lost some ground in interest rates. I think in the next 7 days, we should pick some of that back up. So let's just keep our fingers crossed. Well, I am in a floating bias right now, meaning that I think we got 2 or 3, maybe even 7 days of improvement. Then we're probably going to be on another little cycle. So if you're looking at locking your rate in,
when you say improvement, you mean rates coming back down a little bit.
Yep, rates coming back down. We lost some ground. We lost some ground in the bond market, but it's starting to spring back a little bit. I think the whole problem there, Tom, is that the federal government comes out and spews things to the general public that just doesn't really mean what they think it means, then it starts to correct itself, and I think that's what we're experiencing right now.
All right. Well, hey, I know that we've been talking about condos a lot lately for a couple of reasons. One is, they're affordable mostly, right? They're not selling as fast as they used to. And I've got a buyer looking to buy a condo, and we're running into a lot of concerns, right, about these new requirements that the state is putting down on condo associations, which I think are good overall, but they're definitely causing a lot of agitation.
Well, not only agitation, but they're causing loss of sales, and they're costing people money. And oftentimes, as you well know, sometimes these listing agent that list condos don't really know what the condominium complex has done to mitigate requirements that may be necessary to get a loan in that community. So we've got the requirements from the federal government, and then we got the requirements from Fannie Mae, and they've got to meet in the middle. And
then you got state. The state is putting down new requirements.
That's right. The state. You're right. Yeah. It's a state. So, but oftentimes they say, hey, we need you to do this, but they don't tell you exactly what you have to do or how to mitigate the problem or what you have to provide to show that you've met the requirements. So let's talk a little bit about that. You and I were talking about this is condominiums in the state of Florida that are over 3 stories, so 4 stories or more. Now, this is called and these are milestone inspections, and that would be the state bill 154, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
I think that's the right number. Yeah, for 2023, bill 154. I think that's right.
Bill 154. So now these inspections are going to be required on all units except for units that are within a 3-mile radius of the coast. So let's just say you got an inland condominium, 4 stories or more. This is a phase 1 is going to be your first initial inspection, and that has to be after the unit is 30 years old, right? So if you got a 15, 20-year-old building, you don't have to have this inspection just yet. Yeah. Phase 1 would be a quantitative visual inspection, correct?
Correct. Yeah. If visually everything looks good, they're not going to make you drill into stuff and dig into stuff and x-ray stuff, right? It's a visual inspection by an engineer. So it's not just Joe looking at it, the handyman, right?
Not a home inspector.
Not a home inspector. It's an engineer, a structural engineer, but it's, they're looking for evidence that something's going on, deterioration, rust, cracked concrete, things like that, right?
Yep.
As a matter of fact, I have these are the things that are inspected, right? So you can see it's all structural stuff. Has nothing to do with your countertops or your plumbing. It's physical structure stuff.
Yep.
Making sure the building's not going to fall down, right? And by the way, just you mentioned coastal. It's the same inspection. It's just at 25 years. And that's because salt water tends to make stuff,
Well, and
deteriorate.
that's what we happened to the building in Miami back in 2021, where 98 people lost their lives because
Absolutely.
the rebar was starting to rust out inside the building. You wouldn't have really been able to see it,
Yep,
right?
absolutely. That's right. So yeah, I mean, that's it's good that they're doing that. The downside of it, what's happening, what that's causing is a lot of people are questioning. Anybody that knows about this, and rightly so, they're questioning. Well, should I buy a unit in a building that hasn't gone through this, right? Because if they haven't gone through it, and then they do, there's a good possibility of assessments. It's like, hey, you've got to fix this. You've got to drill through this. You've got to reinforce that. And, those repairs are usually not
Cheap.
minimal. They're,
They're not going to be cheap. So the pros are, if there are a pro, then your building's inspected and you're not going to have to expect that it's going to fall down. The
right.
cons are is that money's got to come from somewhere because just a visual inspection is not going to be free. And if the condominium is required to do it, then the money has to come from somewhere. That's
And
going to
it's,
come from the owners. And if
yep,
there's not enough money in the reserves to pay for it, then they're going to have to do special assessments to all the condo owners. And
that's right.
now, but here's the dilemma there, Tom. We're already seeing special assessments just by virtue of homeowners insurance for their master condo policies going up.
Yep.
They're
Yep.
not meeting reserve requirements. So you and I have recently discovered personally that we've had at least 2 units that we had viable buyers and sellers on that we were struggling with because the condominium no longer meets reserve requirements. And they were on the Fannie Mae approved list and then
Correct.
taken off the Fannie Mae approved list because they did not have enough money in reserves. This is a major problem for condo owners because if you can't get a traditional conventional mortgage or FHA or VA mortgage, then your value will drop because less people can qualify. Otherwise, you're looking for non-warrantable condominium loans or
Right.
types of financing that would be, less than desirable, substandard standard type of financing
Well, with,
available.
with typically with higher rates, right? When you go
More
non-QM,
greater down payment, higher interest rates. So
yep.
all those things start to apply. That's right.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a real problem. I still think condos can be a great opportunity, but I think buyers should always be careful with everything they buy. And I think
Yeah.
these days they need to be double careful with condos and really dig in and ask the questions and make sure you're working with a professional that at least knows what questions to ask and can dig in.
And I'll tell
Um,
you something for all of you listening out there, you have to be careful because your average real estate agent does not understand this yet. It's too new, but it's going to cost you, the consumer, the buyer or the seller, money if you're not aware of this. So feel free to reach out to Tom or I. We're happy to help you, whether you are a customer looking to buy, a customer looking to sell, or another real estate agent that just doesn't understand what all these guidelines are. Tom and I are always here to help our industry. And if you have questions, just reach out to either one of us and we can send you the details on it.
Yeah, happy to do it. So, and the other thing, we got about a minute left. The other thing that's going on here, Bruce, is the reserves, right? So the requirements have just changed, and all 100% of, regardless of how many floors, condo associations have to go through a reserve assessment.
That's
And
right.
if they're short, they have to make it up, and they have to make it up within. I don't remember the time frame, but they have a reasonable time frame to make it up, but it's not very reasonable. And so we're
Well,
seeing condo
again,
associations raise
again,
50,
that
80.
means, again, then, Tom, that's going to mean, hey, you need to write a check or else we don't
Mhm.
have enough reserves to cover our association. And that's going to cost people. Now, I do believe in the next 3 to 4 years, things will be caught up. We'll have a new normal. People will
Yep.
know what to expect. But you need to understand that if you own a condominium, there's likely going to be a special assessment somewhere along the line. I just don't think condominium owners like their HOA to have too much in reserves, because it's this money that has to be paid for reserves, but you're going to be required to now. So you're going to need to be involved in your condominium association so that you are completely aware of what the requirements are, or else it's going to start costing you money, because when you go to sell, you're going to have a problem if you don't address this right away.
And that's the thing that a lot of people don't think about. When you buy, we don't always buy what we buy thinking about selling it, but you need to, right? And
You absolutely need to.
when you're buying a condominium, you've got to think about it's like, oh, I'm paying cash, I don't have to worry. Well, that's great, but the next person trying to buy it from you might need a loan, and if they can't get it, you don't have as many buyers.
Well, we don't buy real estate as a depreciating item, right? We want to appreciate. We want to make money in real estate. So even if you already own a condominium and you go, what do I care? I already own it. I don't have to worry about it. And I have no intention on selling it. Sooner or later, that property will need to be sold. And what you don't want to do is negatively affect your value at any given time. That would be a huge a huge mistake.
Well, heck, Bruce, it's at some point you might want to do a cash out refi, and if there's no financing available, you can't do that either. So, it's rough out there right now. So, hey, listen, I know you want to go get on to the races, so I hope you enjoy it. Have a great day out there. Don't get too much sun. All right.
Well, I'm just glad not to be getting soaking wet. But listen, Tom, thank you again. Everybody listening out there, appreciate you tuning in. Hope you learned something from today. This was really informative. I'll tell you what, we're on top of this. And if you need help, you just reach out and we got you. Have a great day, man.
Have a great day, Bruce. See ya.
Yeah.